Yo, what is going on guys? CamzTV here, and today I bring you a play-by-play of a game I had earlier where I ran a 3-star Veigar comp. This is probably one of the most fun comps to run when you pull it off, and I just want to go over some of the do's and the don'ts of this comp, as well as point out some of the obvious mistakes I made so you won't do the same. The items you want from the starting carousel is either a tier or spat, as this comp is heavily reliant on getting as many mana items in order to pull it off. The point of this comp is to get Veigar to ult as fast as possible and as much as possible. Mage Spat is also pretty useful because it allows you to hit the 6 mage synergy pretty early on, or it lets you sub out one of your mages for a better frontline unit. Don't worry about getting a Mage Spat if you can't get one, this comp still runs fine with the 3 mage synergy. Getting a Neko's help is another tell that I might want to go for this comp, as it makes it easier to hit any 3-star unit if you have a Neko's in hand. As you see here, I decided to pick up all the woodlands early since they are one of the best early game comps and can minimize your damage taken in the early game. Unfortunately for me, I end up facing a Leona 2 with wardens and I just don't have the damage yet. One of the biggest weaknesses of this comp is that you really struggle in the mid game due to the lack of damage your comp provides and the lack of frontline. So it's very important to streak early on and minimize your losses so you have enough HP to survive the mid game. Another thing you want to focus on heavily throughout this game is econ. Always try to hit that interest bracket when you can, especially early on. Interest adds up fast, and it'll allow you to level faster and roll more for Veigar 3 when the time comes. I sell my Zyras on the bench to hit econ, and luckily we hit Maokai 2, giving us a decent early game frontline. Going into this next fight, we're able to take out 2 units, but the shield's Thresh gives himself in overtime are just enough to force us into a tie. This is fine however because it allows us to continue our loose streak, which gives us more gold to work with in the long run. For those who aren't familiar with how the win/loss streak system works, you gain gold for maintaining a streak. The longer the win or loss streak, the more gold you get each round. This is useful to keep track of because it lets you hit those econ brackets faster, which means more gold. More gold means more rolls, which results in having a stronger board. If you look in the background, we've entered overtime mode and Thresh is just giving himself huge shields, which forces us into a tie. Pretty good for us because we keep our loose streak and we take very little damage because we cleaned up most of the units on the board. Here we are able to pick up an Ivern 2, and now we're hoping to find a Neeko at this point to play the Woodland synergy. Woodlands make a copy one of the units on the board, and Neeko recently got buffed last patch, so now she's an amazing early to mid game unit. Definitely worth picking her up. We naturally level to 4, and we want to keep our loose streak going, so we are playing a relatively weak board to ensure our loose streak. I want to point out that our opponent here leveled to 5, something that you should almost never do, especially if you've already taken a loss and aren't preserving a win streak. He might be strong now, but he hurt his econ so badly and is hurting his mid and late game by doing this. So now we're heading into the carousel round and we are first pick. Another thing about intentionally keeping a loss streak is that it also helps you get earlier picks on the carousel. This comp is focused on tiers and thankfully we have first dibs, so we're able to snatch up the only tier on the carousel. When entering carousel rounds, you want to remember 2 things: how much gold you have and what items you have already. It's good to know what items you already have, so when the carousel shows you your options, you already have an item in mind that you want to go for. For example, maybe you have a rod, so on the carousel, you want to go for maybe a glove to make spell crit, or maybe you need anti-healing so you go for a belt. Knowing what you already have on board helps you know what you need and gives you an edge over someone who is looking back at their board and hesitates to pick an item, especially if you both need that same item. You want to remember how much gold you have to see what unit you need to pick in order to make econ when possible. For example, in this game, I'm at 18 gold before the carousel, and I can sell my carousel unit before the next round starts by going to my board, going to the first empty slot on my bench, and pressing E to sell my unit. Focusing on this game, you see I made a mage cap on Ivern, and I've decided to greed and not level after Carousel, which is generally when you would level to 5. I plan on riding this loose streak, but looking back on this gameplay, maybe I should have leveled to 5 to try to minimize the damage I took. These last 2 rounds I've taken a lot more damage than I would have liked to, but I am going to be at 50 plus gold at Krugs, which is pretty good. I level here at Krugs because I'm not sure if I can beat them with my current board. We're hoping to get more tiers, but RNG is RNG and hoping can only get you so far. We end up getting a cloak, a Syndra, and some gold, which isn't great, but I decide to hold on to the Syndra because she is a mage and an ocean unit. We end up finding a Nico and decide to roll down on 3-1 to upgrade our units as well as keeping an eye out for any Veigars. We get really lucky and we're able to upgrade all of the units on our board and find 2 Nikos and a Veigar all within 20 gold. I feel like I'm strong enough at this point and I decide to stop rolling. Our plan now is to econ up and slow level to 6. Upgrading our units gave us a decent power spike and we are able to take our first win. At this point, we want to start preserving our HP if possible, as this comp is a comp that really shines in the late game when you hit your Veigar 3. We end up hitting up a Nico 2 naturally, so I decide to sub Nico in for Talia, as Nico provides us with the woodland synergy and just has more potential DPS output overall. At this point, I want to start thinking about putting Mage Cap on Nico, as having her double ult can blow up teams instantly. My opponent here looks like he's heading in an Electric Warden's direction, and even with 2 Dragon Claws, my team is melting right through him. I end up buying XP till I'm at 50 gold, and I decide to greed a bit in order to keep my interest bracket. Risky play, but Woodland Synergy makes it so we have even numbers, and as long as my Nico can carry, we should be alright. I probably should have bought the LeBlanc here and sold the Ivern to put the Mage Cap on Nico. That was a misplay looking back on it, but it's fine because we still end up winning this round anyways. Here I also notice my opponent seems to be going a similar route as me, which raises red flags. This comp is so reliant on hitting your Veigar 3 that having someone take your Veigars from the pool could sabotage your plans. Luckily for me, he seems to end up rage quitting and uninstalling his game, putting all those Veigars back in the pool for me. How kind of him. We head into the second carousel, this time being second pick. I end up getting another tier, which is the best item I could get. You want to focus on stacking your Veigar with Serups in order to make him a rapid fire ult machine. On this round, I slow level, keeping myself at above 50 gold. I need to start transitioning out of woodlands now as they are going to start falling off pretty soon. Again, I probably should have sold Ivern for LeBlanc to give Nico the Mage Cap. We end up winning this fight, but it was closer than I would have liked. Winning is important here on out, as we want to preserve our HP and our win streak in order to hit level 7 and roll down for Veigar 3. I slow level again and I'm scouting around to see what other players are deciding to go. We are on a 4-round win streak and I should be trying to keep that alive, so I'm not sure if greeting here was the best idea. Our opponent looks like he's gonna go into some sort of 6 light variant by looking at his board and his bench. We actually managed to beat him this round, but barely, despite being down a level to him. Next round is Wolves, and we are able to go into Creep round while maintaining 50 gold, which is huge. We are also able to maintain our win streak, which also adds up to the gold total. At Wolves, I decided to replace Ivern and give Nico Mage Cap. I want to point out a huge mistake I made, and I want you guys to never make this mistake as well. I have a LeBlanc on the bench, and while LeBlanc is not the holy grails of individual units, she is much better than playing a Veigar 1. LeBlanc would have gave me Woodlands and Mage synergy and provide CC. Veigar at level 1 is probably single-handedly one of the worst, if not the absolute worst 1-star unit due to how his ult works. Some would even argue he is only worth playing at 3-star, but I'll let you guys decide that amongst yourselves. The play here was 100% to play LeBlanc over Veigar, and I have no idea why I didn't if I'm being completely honest. Taking a look at the items I've got, I've decided to make a Shojin's on Nico, which I will later transfer onto my Veigar. It is not the ideal item, but it does help give him mana, and I want to keep a streak going, so making items are necessary. I decide to pick up the Malphites, who I will end up putting a Mage Cap on, as he is an overall good unit with tons of CC, and provides us with mountain buff. On this round, I pick up Nautilus because of his Ocean Warden tags. I made another misplay by keeping in Maokai this late into the game, when he should have been replaced by Malphite for mountain buff. I've also should have made a Zephyr by now, as it is such a good item to have, especially in the late game, and I have no idea why I didn't make it. We end up taking our first loss, ending our win streak. We finally decide to sell Maokai here, but we decide to replace him with Nautilus, when the correct play was to replace Maokai with Malphite for mountain buff. We rolled down a tiny bit and didn't hit a single thing. We do, however, make a Zephyr which hits a 3-star Rek'Sai, allowing us to kill more units than we would have, and lets us take less damage. I feel like these last two losses could have been avoided if I made the correct plays earlier, and also didn't greed as much. Because I decided to greed, I kept in the Woodlands for far too long and lost extra HP that I didn't need to. On this third carousel, I'm looking for another tier. Unfortunately, it got yoinked and I end up going for a bow. I rolled down a bit and hit Veigar 2, and then I sell my Nikos in order to put the items on Veigar and Malphite. I sub in Malphite and put the Mage Cap on him, and our comp is almost complete. I make a Zephyr on Syndra, as I feel like this item is OP when it comes to this comp. Because this comp lacks frontline, Zephyr allows you to buy time to get off your ults and blow up the enemy team before their units even get a chance to play the game. Zephyr here 100% won me this fight, as it allowed my very weak frontline to not get bursted down before my DPS units could cast their ults and blow them up first. We end up taking this guy out of the game and now find ourselves in a top 5 situation. We decide to slow level here, even though we probably should have rolled to upgrade our frontline and maybe hit Brand 2. We leave our Zephyr on the Hex, as there's too many people left in the lobby, so targeting a Hex unit is usually okay. We got incredibly lucky because we were able to hit his Olaf carry with Zephyr, which probably won us that fight. He's also 1-star, so that could have been a factor as well. It is now Raptors round and we still have yet to upgrade our frontline. We slow level and hit 8 next round to play 4 Oceans. We are praying for a tier at this point, as our items have been subpar at best for this comp. We end up making a Jeweled Gauntlet for Brand and giving him the bow for attack speed. We rolled down and hit Nautilus too, but that was about it. We end up playing the ghost board of a 6 lights player and end up losing. Veigar is pretty bad against summoner units such as Yorick or Malhazar, because he could end up sniping the summons instead of the summoner. Soraka also counters this mage comp if she gets a good ult off on your casters to prevent them from ulting. Thankfully it was a ghost board and we don't end up taking too much damage from that loss, but now we need to roll down to get stronger. We are able to sell most of our bench to go back to 50 gold where we rolled down again. This time we hit Malphite 2 and Brand 2. I should have also picked up Nami as well, as she provides insane CC and Ocean, in place of my Thresh, who at this point is just a meat shield. To be honest, we haven't seen many Veigars despite being the only ones in this lobby who are playing this comp. We still need 4 more Veigars to hit 3-star Veigar with Nico's help, and we're getting kinda desperate now. If it wasn't for his Zephyrs this game, we probably would have been out already. In this fight, we Zephyr the Kog'Maw, which allows us to just blow up his team without any problem, and he takes a huge hit for that. I decide to econ up so I can roll down for Veigar 3 in the future. I scout around, and by remembering who I already faced in the previous rounds, I try to guess who I'm going to fight next. I position my frontline Zephyr to target the enemy Yorick in case I end up fighting him, and I guess correctly. We also end up Zephyring the enemy Soraka, which is another insane unit to Zephyr as it lets my team cast freely. As you see here, this fight went a lot better this time than last time, but his Soraka and Yorick Ghoul were still able to clean up a few units. We're still able to get the W, and now we head into the full item carousel round. Because of my health, I am first pick and we get extremely lucky and end up with the Force of Nature, which allows us to play an extra unit on board, and it's on a Veigar. We now only need 3 more Veigars to hit 3-star Veigar. I scout around and I should have Zephyred his Olaf, but my baby brain is way too slow and I do nothing instead. Even though our positioning wasn't optimal, we are still able to come out on top and take him out, and now we find ourselves in a top 3 situation. At this point of the game, you should always be thinking to yourself, how can I get stronger? And the answer to that is lobby dependent. In my case, my win conditions are 3-star Veigar, leveling to 9 and playing another Ocean, or putting in Mystics if the lobby is magic heavy. This time we weren't so lucky against the light player, even though we hit the Zephyr on the units we wanted to hit. Veigar is only 2-star, so he doesn't delete units yet, plus bad fight RNG resulted in an L. We could have also positioned a little bit better, maybe put our Nami 2 where the Syndra is, but in retrospect that's probably what I should have done. We end up getting a Hand of Justice from the Dragon, which is not the best, but it's still fine as it's a mana item and will allow Veigar to cast faster. We only need 1 more Veigar to make a 3-star Veigar, and we end up rolling it down to find him. We finally hit, and now you just sit back and relax as the chaos ensues. We end up destroying this guy, and if you're watching these fights closely, you should know how insane this Malphite is and how much value he's giving me by CCing the whole enemy team. This is why Mage Cap Malphite is so good. The only way to get stronger from here is to level to 9, but I don't have to go for that as of yet. I could either play Mystics, another Warden, or look for an Ocean Lux to get 6 Oceans. Zephyring the Yorick in these fights is key because if he can't summon the ghouls, they won't proc the light synergy, which in turn means they won't heal as much and they won't gain attack speed as much. Here we jam the level button just to level up, and I think we end up playing a Kindred in the meantime just because we didn't have a unit to play and it was the last second. This next fight I Zephyr the Soraka, but the QSS on Nasus prevents my Zephyr from going off against him. I figured he would have moved his Yorick over somewhere, but he ended up just leaving it where it was. I outplayed myself, sad face. He also hit 3-star Aatrox, which should now be my Zephyr target, because 3-star units are the counter to Veigar. We still end up winning this fight, but this was much closer despite me having 2 extra units on the board over him. On the final Carousel, we end up taking RFC for the attack speed and range on brand. We also wrote down a bit and end up hitting Ocean Lux to get the 6 Mage, 6 Ocean synergy. Quick rundown on this comp before I go. 3 Mage is fine, the important things are mana items for your 3-star Veigar, a decent frontline, and maybe a Zephyr or 2. Hitting 6 Mages is definitely nice, but not needed in order to run this comp. Remember to try to stay healthy early game and mid game, cause from mid game to late game this comp falls off till you hit your 3-star Veigar. So that is it guys, what did you think of this 3-star Veigar comp that has started to become popular over in NA? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a like as it really does help out the channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave the bell icon on to get notified when a new video comes out. As always, you can catch me over on twitch.tv/CamzTV_ or click the link in the description below. For all your insider info, tips, and tricks, this is CamzTV signing off. Adios amigos.